that apartheid spatial planning that still exists within the hostel, which makes it difficult for the residents of hostel to have access, to decent accommodation in Johannesburg, and taking into consideration that there are also permanent residents of the city of Johannesburg. So whatever programs that we are introducing in the city, they must find expression of how then we are going to deal with the human settlements challenges within the hostel. So in Region E, which is Alexandra, we erected containers in Madala Hostel because we did an assessment there, and the engineering report that we were able to obtain indicated that the hostel must be demolished. The structure is beyond repair, including your Helen Joseph Hostel. So that's why we utilized the sport field, which is adjacent to the hostel, to erect those containers, because we want to take everyone out of that old existing structure, demolish the hostel so that we are able to redevelop. So I'm pleased to indicate that we have obtained the occupational certificates for us to utilize the containers there. So we'll be moving people out of the hostel so that we are able to demolish that old structure for us to redevelop. Helen Joseph, where they acquired Extension 52, unfortunately, there are occupiers there that we've engaged with previously. They understand, because mainly it's business activities that are happening there, and they actually agreed to vacate the site so that we are able to demolish, because we need to start with the redevelopment of that particular area, because we are going to use Extension 52 as a decanting facility for Helen Joseph, because we need to demolish that a hostel. So we are in that process. So there will be activities that speak to the redevelopment of that particular hostel. So if you move to Soweto, you've got to Diepkloof Hostel, where we have started with the redevelopment of the hostel. So we are demolishing the old existing structure there as well, and we have also obtained approvals. So we are moving people. So there is a block where we have started moving people out, and we will be demolishing. But the demolishing of that hostel, required a certain spec because of the asbestos roof. And in terms of health and safety standard, there is a way that you demolish any structure with an asbestos roof. But there are activities that are happening with regards to that, and Joshko is currently on site to assist us as our implementing agent. If you go to Dube Hostel and the women's Orlando West Women's Hostel, we have appointed Johannesburg Water, because for us to allocate even the structures that we have refurbished, we're advised that there is no infrastructure. So when province came to construct those houses, they did not install infrastructure, and they did not conduct an assessment to check the capacity of the existing infrastructure. So we were advised, after we had conducted our own assessment, that we need to increase or upgrade the sewer and the electricity capacity there, so that we are able to connect the new development. So where we are right now, we are in a process now of upgrading the sewer line for 3 hostels. So Johannesburg Water has been appointed for that work. So we are anticipating to commence the work in Q2. So once we're done with the upgrading, then we'll do the internal reticulation. Then we will commence with the allocation. So that's for 3 hostel: your Dube, your Midlands, and your Orlando West Women's Hostel. In Jabulani Hostel, the provincial government is proceeding. We requested that they hand over that development, because we see the pace of which they are moving in terms of implementation, and we are not quite happy with the progress that they've made. And they've also got units that they have not allocated because of the electricity capacity in the area. And I heard they are in engagement with Eskom or City Power, but we had requested that they hand it over, of which they had not accepted the request of that we had made at the time. At Mapetla Hostel, we have budgeted 1 million to commence with the planning processes. So there are no development plans for Mapetla Hostel, but this financial year, we have allocated money. We will be getting a consultant that will start with the planning of the development of that particular hostel. In Nansfield Hostel and Lifating, there is work that we had started previously, where we evacuated everyone that is residing along the flood line in the hostel, because they are affected now by the erosion of the flight line, which is moving towards the hostel now. So there are blocks which are now located within the flight line, and we evacuated them. We gave them a safe space when I was at the MMC previous, and I was informed that they went back. So we'll be going back there to engage with them, because we've got sufficient a land parcel to commence with the development in Nansfield Hostel. But we also need the residents to work with us, so that when we move them out of the spaces, they do not go back, because we are trying to save their lives, because we cannot allow people to reside in the floodlands, because during the rainy season they get to be affected by floods. So that activity will also be ongoing, and we are going to kickstart it and resuscitate all the plans that we had for the redevelopment of that particular hostel. But over and above the redevelopment programs that I've mentioned, we are also doing cleaning and day-to-day maintenance in hostels. So that program, in fact, was stalled when we were ousted in 2023. So Joshua has been appointed again, so that we are able to get contractors to go back on site, because all the public hostel that we are managing as the Department of Human Settlements, we are also responsible for the cleaning and maintenance. So we do day-to-day cleaning and the day-to-day maintenance in this hostel. So we will be getting contractors which they will be going back to on site, so that we are able to commence with the day-to-day maintenance and the cleaning in these particular hostels. It's very difficult to give timelines because of the amount of work that still needs to be done, and the delays that you are encountering along the way. So, it's not easy to find an alternative accommodation to evacuate people out of the dilapidated structures. So that alone delays the implementation of the redevelopment. But over and above that, there are also issues of budget. So we are operating under a very limited budget. But the national government and the provincial government, both the minister and the MEC, they have shown appetite in assisting us in Johannesburg in terms of hostel redevelopment, and we are more reliant on their assistance in this regard. So we will be able to give timelines once we have managed to get alternative accommodation for everyone that will need to be relocated or evacuated out of these dilapidated structures. With Dube Hostel, once we deal with issues of sewer, we will then do the internal connections of the units, the new development. Then we start with allocation. So that's how we are going to proceed with the redevelopment. So we said we are not going to go ahead with the refurbishment, because we are doing those refurbishment, but we are unable to allocate because of the sewer capacity. So that's why we said let's upgrade the sewer, connect the units that are ready. Once they are connected, then we do allocation, then we proceed with the development. Yeah, I think because I grew up at Dube Hostel, I do have an appreciation of what happened. So there are 29 people which made way for the development. So there are 29 which the department can account for. So the other people that are there, they went there because the containers were standing there empty for years, and people decided to occupy. So government can only account for 29. And when we do the allocation, we start with that 29. As much as, the list, they are unable now to locate where who took the list and what happened to the list. But because we were there, the leaders, some of the Izindunas, they were there, some of the leaders within the hostel, they were there, so they know who was moved out of the units that were demolished to make way for the development. But department can account for 29 because there are 29 people who were actually moved by the department into the containers, and the rest of the residents there, they moved them, later on the later stage to occupy those containers because they were standing vacant for a very long time.